Running away from the FBI at just 16 years old with a huge MySpace following and stolen aeroplanes, to Snapchat clues and money laundering fake gurus, here are some of the FBI's most wanted influencers. Beginning with Chad Hauer, the man who used TikTok to apparently save his own son. In 2001, Chad Hauer and his former wife decided to part ways. Being a free man, Hauer seized an employment opportunity far away in Europe, while the couple's son, Aries, remained in Tennessee under the care of his mother. According to Hauer's accountant on his website, His World, Aries' mother continuously disrupted.
Yo, what up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of teethdaggers reacts / analyzes videos. Today, we are watching the FBI's Most Wanted Influencers by Moon Crime. So, let's get right into it!
His scheduled visitations with his son, and even hid the young boy from him on multiple occasions. Finally, in 2005, after numerous warnings from the judge, custody was granted to Chad. Aries then joined his father overseas. However, whilst he might have thought he'd won the war, and that he and his son could finally live in peace, all hell would soon break loose. Shortly after she lost custody, Aries' mother took up residence in Pennsylvania and filed kidnapping charges against Hauer. In June 2006, Hauer accompanied Aries to the United States for a summer visitation with his mother until school resumed in Cyprus, where they were residing at the time. Little did Hauer know that he would never set foot in the US again. The father and his son parted ways in Boston, with Aries escorted to Cleveland to meet his mum, and Hauer traveling to Seattle for work at Microsoft. By August, his mother, according to Hauer, refused to return Aries at the end of the summer break. It ultimately required a court order to compel her to comply. A judge from Pennsylvania upheld the Tennessee ruling and ordered her to get the young boy on a plane back to Cyprus, and so she did, reluctantly so. But rather incredibly, in November of 2006, the very same judge, the one that had just ruled in the father's favor, was also involved in fabricating false kidnapping charges against Hauer, despite having full knowledge of Aries' whereabouts in Cyprus. As per Hauer, these supposedly baseless accusations were later escalated to federal kidnapping charges through a secretive process conducted by a federal grand jury. The FBI strategically, according to the disgruntled father, publicized this information to sway public opinion in their favor, resulting in widespread coverage by various media outlets. And again, rather incredibly, Hauer was oblivious to all of this, but that would change in 2009, while on a business trip in Bulgaria, where he would soon be arrested by a group of Interpol agents, all of whom were armed. Subsequently, over the course of 3 months, Hauer was incarcerated in a total of 5 Bulgarian prisons. Shuffled from place to place, his mind completely scrambled by the insanity of what was occurring. Since then, he suggests that he has been caught in a bureaucratic ordeal with FBI agents, prioritizing protecting themselves over finding a resolution. The US government has attempted to extradite him twice from different countries, but their efforts to date have been unsuccessful. During the first extradition attempt, Hauer claims on his site that the false evidence against him involved the false testimony of his ex-wife, who appears to have a history of lying under oath. After Europe, Chad then relocated to St. Kitts and Nevis, a beautiful tiny country located in the Caribbean. At the time,
I don't get how the fuck this guy's an influencer. I don't think he ever mentioned how he's an influencer, and so far he's just getting into his, how he's a most wanted guy. But it says FBI's most wanted influencers.
time the US didn't have an extradition treaty with the island nation. And there's even a website called Alex is Not Missing, which states that despite his mother visiting him in 2009 in his home country of St. Kitts, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children continued to list Alex as missing until 2022, even though he was already 26 years old. It was only after Chad posted a critical TikTok video about NCMEC that the poster was finally taken down. In recent times, Hauer has used TikTok to tell his traumatizing tale, hence his title, The TikTok Fugitive. Importantly, according to the TikToking renegade, his son is very much alive and just chooses to have nothing to do with his mother. In other words, he's not missing, he's just missing from his mother's life. In interviews, Alex has repeatedly stated that the FBI investigation is more akin to a witch hunt than a legitimate case, full of fiction and very little factual evidence. Last year in a podcast interview with Ike Wingate, Hauer, obviously hurt and infuriated by years of cat and mouse mind games, said that the FBI's attempts to extradite him have failed because their claim is not even credible. But why? Why would the FBI go to such great lengths to destroy the life of a supposedly innocent man? Don't they have more important things for doing?
Oh, so that's how he's an influencer. He used TikTok. This was quite a squeeze, man. He became an influencer after he was the most wanted motherfucker. Just because his mom made false claims. So his mom... Alright guys, so to get through this story, basically, the mom made false claims saying this dude kidnapped the kid. I guess the FBI believed it because the kid wouldn't communicate to the mom. You would think the kid would have been like, no, I'm not kidnapped. And then he eventually did do that, but you would think he would have called it out earlier before the dad had to go through this whole process. Kids started making YouTube videos. They're both influencers. Kids saying I'm perfectly fine, I'm 26. Dad is saying I'm a fugitive for no reason. That's what's going on here.
And hiding out in Moscow, Hauer is safe from the feds and Interpol, for now at least. Hauer's story is a fascinating one, but the tale of Colton Harris Moore, another individual who...
And this guy was like not really an influencer at all. This is a huge push. All he was like the opposite. He wasn't on the internet that much, and he just stole a bunch of planes and flew from place to place. Alright guys, so far they're not really influencers.
Who had numerous run-ins with the law is even more interesting. Born on March 22nd, 1991, Colton was dealt a bad deck of cards in the game of life. His father, who struggled with drug and alcohol abuse, left the family when Colton was just a kid, with a single mother left to raise him alone, with the pair living on Camino Island, Washington, in a single wide trailer, where they would regularly face financial difficulties, as Colton's mum also battled alcoholism, creating this unstable and even abusive environment for the young boy, who began showing behavioral problems very early on into his life. At the age of just 7, he started running away from home frequently, spending days in nearby forests. To survive, he resorted to breaking into vacation homes to steal food and camping supplies. His first conviction for theft was at the age of 12, leading to more convictions, but it wouldn't be long before he ended up doing time in juvenile detention centers. Colton attended Stanwood Middle School, but was later transferred to Lincoln Hill Alternative School due to a number of ever-escalating disciplinary issues. His troubles continued at Lincoln Hill, and by 9th grade he stopped attending. 6, a warrant was issued for his arrest again, after he failed to appear in court as required. Upon discovering that he was now a wanted individual, the teenager in fact decided to go on the run. The fresh-faced Rambo established hidden campsites deep within the woods of Camino Island, breaking into homes to obtain food and supplies, anything to keep himself alive. Some of these homes contained computers, and Colton would use them to educate himself on the art of identity theft. By ordering credit cards...
Yeah, but he didn't do like, he wasn't a fucking influencer, yo. I'm trying to get to the part where he talks about he's an influencer, because this will be the easiest video to call out for clickbaiting in the whole entire fucking world. And this video will be the final proof that you guys shouldn't get mad at me if I'm clickbaiting, dog. That first guy became an influencer after he was a fugitive, and he only was famous because he was a fucking fugitive. And the story was kind of crazy. This guy, I'm waiting for the part where he talks about how he's an influencer, but I already know this story. And basically, he just ran away from home, would steal stuff like he talked about, got caught, ran away from the cops, went to live in the forest, devised a plan to steal a plane, stole a bunch of cars, stole a bunch of planes, and got caught in the Caribbean. Because he flew to the Caribbean. And then he got caught. Oh, and he stole a boat there too. He just knew how to fly and drive all the boats and planes in the world, I guess. Because he's good at computers. But, he wasn't an influencer.
Cards under the homeowners' names, he was able to acquire essential items like food and advanced survival equipment, including night vision goggles, which aided him in evading capture by law enforcement. Eventually, on February 9th, 2007, Harris Moore was apprehended and taken into custody. Having evaded capture for over 6 months, he now faced a total of 23 criminal charges, primarily related to the residential burglaries. In an effort to mitigate his legal consequences, he struck a deal with prosecutors and pleaded guilty to all 3 offenses. As a result, he received a 3-year sentence at Green Hill School, a high-security juvenile detention facility located in Cialis. During this time, the young guy demonstrated exemplary behavior and proved himself to be a model student inmate. Consequently, he was then transferred to the Griffin Home Residential Treatment Center on February 14, 2008. Situated in Renton, Griffin served as a minimum security halfway home aimed at reintegrating troubled youths into society. However, many speculated that this commendable conduct was just a facade designed to secure transfer to a facility offering superior escape opportunities, and they were right. On April 29, 2008, Colton managed to slip through an unlocked window at Griffin Home. Subsequently, a felony warrant was promptly issued for his arrest. Here he was once more on the run from the law, socks and shoes optional. After escaping,
They just had a fucking open window there with this guy who's like who has a long rap sheet, and they're just like, yeah, let's open his window.
Harris Moore would steal the car and make his way back to Kamino Island, where he continued his pattern of breaking into places to steal food and supplies. This time the local authorities were more prepared and launched an aggressive campaign to capture him. The media then also started covering the story, with news articles emerging about this teenage outlaw, the Jesse James of Kamino. On July 18, 2008, sheriff's deputies pursued a black Mercedes that was driving recklessly, and as the police cars closed in, the driver of the Mercedes suddenly abandoned the vehicle and
Dude, I gotta be honest, this guy's not even good at telling the story. This dude has a whole documentary on him, and he has a friend with him the whole time helping him steal the cars and helping him with his plans. He wasn't solo dolo like this guy's making it seem, and they weren't fucking influencers. He hasn't mentioned that once.
into the woods. Upon searching the car, authorities discovered stolen credit cards, cell phones, and a digital camera with self-portraits taken by the driver himself. Harris Moore was quickly identified in the photos, including one where he is lying on his back in a forest, gazing up at the camera.
Yeah, he would take the photos not to influence. He took little photos and stuff to mock the cops. It wasn't to influence, that's what I meant to say. It wasn't to influence, it was to mock the cops.
This iconic image spread widely online, attracting a growing fanbase interested in the ongoing crime saga by this young man. By this point, the 17-year-old fugitive had acquired a nickname due to his habit of committing crimes barefoot and leaving footprints behind. This gave birth to the Barefoot Bandit. But Harris Moore knew he couldn't stay on the island much longer, so he fled, this time on a stolen boat. He relocated himself to a different place known as Orcas Island, located in the Pacific Northwest. Shortly after his arrival in August 2008, the San Juan County Sheriff's Office began receiving an increasing number of reports regarding burglaries, causing widespread concern within the small island community. The situation escalated to such an extent that on October 2nd, 2008, the Orcas Island Chamber of Commerce organized a special meeting to address the sudden surge of sophisticated break-ins. Law enforcement intensified their efforts to apprehend the individual responsible, who was strongly suspected to be Colton Harris Moore. And by November 12th, Harris Moore made the decision to evade the police by stealing a single-engine airplane from a hangar. Despite lacking any prior aviation experience, he managed to successfully take off from the island and fly 300 miles east. However, without his experience of landing, he ultimately crash-landed the aircraft on the Yakima Indian Reservation, luckily escaping and surviving before the authorities could even arrive. In the brilliant book The Barefoot Bandit, the author Bob Friel discussed how Colton acquired his flying skills through self-teaching, utilizing aircraft manuals, instructional DVDs, and spending countless hours playing Microsoft Flight Simulator. During the investigation, police discovered footprints inside the cockpit, providing a clear indication that the shoeless savant was the likely suspect. Interestingly, the stolen airplane belonged to Bob Rivers, a well-known radio host on Seattle station Kozak FM. Rivers became aware of the theft immediately after concluding his morning radio show. A year later, while Harris Moore was still on the run, Rivers expressed his frustration regarding the incident, stating to the radio listeners that Colton was no folk hero. He was, in Rivers' eyes, a criminal who needed to be apprehended. Following the airplane theft, Harris Moore continued his
He's a folk hero, dude. What kind of fucking kid is that genius enough to steal a boat, steal a plane, escape from prison, take the boat to an island, all of a sudden be on that island, fucking steal many planes, steal many cars, know how to do all this shit and get away with it, dog?
of stealing cars and constantly moving around, traveling to various locations such as Reno and Sacramento. In the years to come, he would steal yet another couple of planes and spend time in Washington and Illinois before making his way back to Indiana.
Dude, see? In the years to come. But he is not a fucking influencer.
On July 4th, 2010, his penchant for aircraft theft kicked in again, where he would steal a plane, his fourth one, from an airport in Bloomington, Indiana. This time he had his eyes set on reaching Cuba, due to his lack of extradition agreements with—
Yep, and that's where he got caught, and he was only an influencer to tell people, here's how it's gonna end. He gets caught, hey, he gets caught right here, in a boat, alright? He gets caught in a boat because he went to Cuba or whatever, then stole a boat, and he just got caught stealing the boat. And then when he was in jail to do the model citizen thing again, he was just telling people not to be a criminal. And then after he got out of jail, he would go around to high schools and say, don't be a criminal. He wasn't a fucking influencer. He was, though. The way this tricks you, and here's the video analysis. The final video analysis is the way this is clickbait, is these guys aren't necessarily influencers in the way you think about it. They're influencers because people were watching this fucking news and being super impressed with this kid stealing all these planes. And then he's an influencer because he would go to high school and try to influence. He wasn't like a YouTuber or anything, so they use this word craftily. Influencers in this case aren't like famous YouTubers who are ended up on the area, on like the space. They're actual, like, do better in life influencers. So if you guys like that video, make sure to type in the FBI's most wanted influencers into YouTube search by Moon Crime. Click subscribe and like the video if you liked the video. And that being said, guys, thank you for watching this episode of Teeth Daggers Reacts / Analyzes. This time it was pretty much all analyzation videos. If you like that analyzation, subscribe below!
Find me at twitch.com/teethdaggers.